Good afternoon. Tom Whalen sitting in for Aaron Rand today on Montreal Now. And on the line with us at the moment is Isabelle Plante, Professor Isabelle Plante, who is a professor of didactics at the Faculty of Education at the Université de Québec à Montréal. Now, didactics, as I just found out today, is the profession of teaching teachers how to teach. Is that right?
Yeah, that's pretty right.
And what we're talking about, Professor Plante, is it's not necessarily a new phenomenon, but it's becoming an increasing phenomenon amongst private schools and public schools that have an International Baccalaureate program, where they're going back in the selection process as far as the fourth grade for new students coming in. So they're looking at a student's marks from the fourth grade when they're deciding who will get into the program and who wouldn't. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the case. So what happened is actually that with the COVID, so schools had to stop having these tests in presence with the kids. So they had to find out other ways to be able to select correctly students. So I want to say here that fourth grade students are really young, but I also want to say that even in fifth grade, which used to be the case, they're pretty young actually to support all of that pressure. But for me, the real issue is the selection, because whatever the criteria, it's very difficult actually to handle for the students. It's either a very stressful test for them to handle, so a one test only, so it's a high test situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult for them to handle that. So we used to criticize that very much. So I think that the using the grades is not that bad because it's a very good measure. It's proven to be a very good predictor of future grades, but still it puts on very much pressure on students' shoulders. And on top of it, it puts pressure on parents that want to do their best for their child. So they'll push them, they'll value school, they'll want them to get in a good program, so they'll have to push them. And I think that's the vicious circle here.
Well, I know I can speak about this anecdotally. I have three daughters who all went to private high school and went
Mm-hmm.
through elementary school in the public system, and what you're saying is exactly right. When they get to fifth grade, it's all of a sudden it's, well, you better do well because these are
Mm-hmm.
the grades that the schools are going to be looking at. Fortunately, the school we chose had they had an interview process and an entrance exam, and they looked at the marks as well. So that made a bit of a difference. Now, is this a practice that's universal? Is it done in other parts of the country or other parts of the world?
So actually, the more you have selective schools, the more you'll have that sort of process going on. In Quebec, it's more in big centers, so in Montreal and the Quebec region. But it's also a very common procedure, not necessarily as young as fourth grade, but I think that what's going on here is that we have ministerial exams in fourth grade.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that for schools, they want to have access to these grades that are exactly the same for, like the process is exactly the same for every student throughout the province. So I think that's what's going on here.
Now, you're you're in the profession of teaching teachers, essentially. Is there part of your program that teaches the teachers how to deal with perhaps a stressed out student who's worried about, not ever having a good job in the fourth grade?
Yeah. So there's not a specific class about it, but very often it's like in the background. It's the kind of stuff that teachers will be. So some professors will present some stuff about like anxiety in general,
Mm-hmm.
all internalized behaviors of students. But you're right that it's not like specifically part of the cursus for everyone. So it's definitely is something that we should probably do more and more, given that these selective programs are actually more and more popular.
So it used to be that it was the fifth grade marks that they would look at exclusively. Now they're looking at fifth and fourth grade. There are some schools that have been doing that for quite some time. Do they compare the two? Do they compare to see if perhaps marks are being consistent, if marks are getting better over the course of those years?
Well, that's probably one thing that they do to look if there's any consistency. But I think that in most schools, it's difficult to have to have access to all of this data. But for some schools, I looked at it. And so I asked them, so what's the proportion, for instance, that you give to fourth grade versus fifth grade? And most of schools, they only have fourth grade. They only attribute a small proportion of their decision on fourth grade. But it's not clear, like, exactly what's happening in there. So we actually need to do a little more research to be sure about all of these questions.
And are there particular subjects that these schools will look at that they give more weight to than other subjects?
Yeah, definitely. So usually they look at reading, writing, mathematics, and English in some cases, but that's unclear. So it's inconsistent, I would say.
All right. Well, this is fascinating to me. It's really interesting how this has come up, and it was an interesting read. There was an article in which you were quoted in La Presse. And just before we go, is there anything that I've left out that perhaps you want to add?
Well, not specifically. Maybe tell parents that selective schools and very, very high achieving schools are not necessarily the best choice for their kids. So if you get me correctly, it's not that these schools are not good, is that the importance is to have a good fit. So it's not necessarily like the best thing to do to put pressure if their kid is not well in this situation.
I see. So if the child doesn't fit well into the program to begin with, why are we putting undue pressure on them?
Yeah, exactly. And there's many type of programs, many types of private schools, and a lot of them do not select students only based on their grades. So this might be a good alternative to consider.
Professor Plante, it's a fascinating subject, and I thank you for taking the time today to talk to us about it.
Thank you for having me.
Unmistakably Canadian.
It's the music that raised you.
The artists raising the bar.
Hi, this is Brian Adams.
Hey, my name's Brett Emmons. I'm from the Glorious Sons.
Hi, I'm Nelly Furtado.
Made in Canada. The station that champions Canadian music.
Loud, proud, and all yours.
No passports required. Just press play.
Tap into Made in Canada now on iHeartRadio.ca
or the free iHeartRadio app.